Welcome to West Wing Week.
POTUS on board.
Welcome to the West Wing Week, your guide to everything that's happening at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This week was National Police Week, and the President honored fallen officers at the National Peace Officers Memorial Service, celebrated the reform efforts of police officers in Camden, New Jersey, signed the National Blue Alert Act to help protect police officers, and congratulated the graduates at the 134th Commencement of the Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut.
Class of 2015, ahoy!
POTUS also sent his first tweet that's May 15th to May 21st, or at POTUS.
All the tweets.
On Friday, the President traveled through the nation's capital to Capitol Hill. There, he joined law enforcement officials and their families at the National Peace Officers Memorial Service to honor 131 peace officers who died in the line of duty.
Scripture tells us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, but only a special few take that commandment so deeply to heart that they are willing to risk their lives so that others, often total strangers, can know peace and security.
Later, the President sat down for an interview in the historic map room of the White House with journalist Nadia Bilbassi of Al Arabiya, a news network in the Middle East. On Monday morning, POTUS sent out his first tweet.
There we go.
Over the course of the day, at POTUS broke the record for the fastest time to reach 1 million followers on Twitter. Later, the President boarded Air Force One and then Marine One en route Camden, New Jersey. There, he met with law enforcement officials who are using creative community-building tactics to fight crime in Camden.
Thanks for your hospitality. But just a few years ago, this city was written off as dangerous beyond redemption. So 2 years ago, the police department was overhauled to implement a new model of community policing. They cut desk jobs in favor of getting more officers out into the streets, not just to walk the beat, but to actually get to know the residents, to set up basketball games, to volunteer in schools. Violent crime in Camden is down 24%. The police and residents are building trust. I had a chance to meet with some of the young people here. They're extraordinary young people, but some of them, the reason they've been able to make it and do well is because their parents don't let them out outside. Well, you know what? Children shouldn't have to be locked indoors in order to be safe. They shouldn't have to go through superhuman efforts just to be able to stay in school and go to college and achieve their promise. That should be the norm. And if it isn't, we're not doing something right. We as a society are not doing something right if it isn't.
On Tuesday, the President welcomed two families whom he met at Friday's National Peace Officers Memorial Service into the Oval Office. There, he signed the Rafael Ramos and Wenjin Liu National Blue Alert Act, named after two police officers who were killed in the line of duty in New York.
New York's finest.
Later, the President welcomed journalist Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic to the Oval Office for an interview about foreign policy. On Wednesday, the President traveled to New London, Connecticut, to congratulate the newly minted ensigns at the Coast Guard Academy. He also addressed the threat to our national security that's posed by climate change and the role of America's maritime first responder in combating and ultimately reversing its effects.
Here at the Academy, climate change is part of the curriculum, and rightly so, because it will affect everything that you do in your careers. If we are to meet this threat of climate change, we must be realists. We have to readjust the sails. When I meet with leaders around the world, it's often at the top of our agenda, a core element of our diplomacy. And you are part of the first generation of officers to begin your service in a world where the effects of climate change are so clearly upon us.
On Thursday, the President held a bilateral meeting with President Essebsi of Tunisia, following their historic democratic elections last year.
Hello.
Later, the President gathered his cabinet for a meeting in, you guessed it, the Cabinet Room. So stay engaged with us online, and remember, you can find out more information about any of these topics and see complete videos of these events at whitehouse.gov. Thanks so much for checking out this edition of your West Wing Week.
If you could just maybe wait a few seconds, build up some anticipation among the crowd, and then pull the coffee mug out, hold it high. The crowd will go wild, Mr. President. It's going to be fantastic.
Hey, it must be a pretty spectacular mug.
That's a good looking mug right there.